A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing today? I hope that you are enjoying life as much as I am. It's Jenny on the Growth Agenda. I come back with part 2 of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. This is an inspirational book. We are looking at the life of one Julian Mantle, who was a lawyer but is now a monk. And the transformation takes place after getting sort of catastrophic experience that wakes him up to the reality that he's not managing his life well and needs to change. We saw that he traveled to India and met with the Sages of Sivana, and now he continues to relate to John what he learned and how he learned it. So we'll continue from that point. Julian presents this transformation as a very mysterious thing to John, and yet it is basic, and he's full of wonder that it is something that we do not see in the crazy world that we are in. He realizes that we do have a lot, and when I say we, I mean those of us who are in this hustle of you have a job, you have a business, you have lots of goals, you have a very long to do in one day, and there is not that much time to relate with the person that you are. We are just driven by the clock. So he realizes that we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of understanding that we have gathered along the way from school, through experience, through the interactions that we have with each other, and that if we could only apply this knowledge to life using the principles that he got from the Sages of Sivana, we would make life a lot more interesting. For example, the principles of tolerance, of forgiving, of purpose, of focus, those things which we have heard of several times. We know them, but we have not applied them in our lives. Imagine a life where every single one of us is using what they know in a very peaceful way, in a way that is not selfish. I have a lot of knowledge in growth, or maybe I'm a lawyer, or I'm an engineer, and the way I utilize the skill and the knowledge is not selfish, is a very generous way, is a very peace-seeking way. I hope you do understand what I mean, that we know what we know, we have what we have, but we walk according to the principles of peaceful living. If we could each embrace that kind of life, then we make the world a much better place, because then there is peace inside of us at individual level, and then when we aggregate, we won't fight anymore. We won't get into the little squabbles that we get into every now and again. So he sees that with this kind of attitude, self-mastery and self-responsibility, and the inner peace and serenity would not be things that we just hear of, maybe that we read about in the Bible as the stuff that happens in heaven. These are things that we're supposed to have here, if only we learn to master ourselves and appreciate the principles of life, and then use what we have and what we are, who we are, accordingly. So they are continuing to share between Julian and John, and John can see that Julian's attitude to life is completely changed, and that he so wishes that every member of society, even here, and here I mean where the hustle is the thing every day, could sense that this is what we need to heal our diseases, whether they are actual medical diseases or spiritual relationship diseases. This is all we need, because then we will have the inner tranquility, which is the prerequisite for a healthy life. So Julian goes ahead to share what he learned, the 7 main ingredients, aspects, principles of life. We're going to talk about 2 today, and then when I return, excuse me, we will talk about the other 5. So number 1, the mind. We all know, and I hope we do, but if we didn't, then let us learn now, that the mind is probably life's greatest gift from God. Because imagine what you would be without a mind. Yes? You have imagined insanity, that there would be no purpose, because anyway, you don't even know that such a thing as purpose exists. So the mind is a very important part of a human being. It is the mind that controls your everything, your speech, your movement, even where you are in life, is because of either what you do or don't do with your mind. So it is something that we must learn to guard and nourish. What are we feeding our minds on? What are we allowing to filter through? Because then that creates the perspective from which we look at life. Julian shares what he saw the sages do in order to protect their minds. One is that they are very deliberate with what they think. What do you think? To control what thoughts run through your mind takes a lot of conditioning. It's not that they never ever had bad thoughts run through their minds, but that when a bad thought came, there was a mechanism of dealing with it immediately, so that they replace it with a positive thought. So how are you utilizing your mind? The reason the mind is important is because it's the gateway to your life. And it is from the mind that actions eventually come. So you have a thought, the thought breeds a feeling, the feeling breeds an action, the action comes to life, and then we see what we see in terms of what you have achieved or not achieved. So because you want your mind to, you want to reap positive stuff from your mind, then keep positive, be optimistic. The thing is that your mind works with what you give it. My mind works with what I give it. So when I wake up one morning and I'm thinking, today I am not feeling great, and I think this is a bad sign already, it's going to be a funny day. It is going to be a funny day. And there is no magic, it's not magical. It is that the things that we think in our minds, it's like a project. Actually, the mind could be compared to a projector. Are projected to the universe. And when you project, of course, you see what you have projected. We receive what the mind projects into the universe. Because silently, the mind is commanding stuff to happen. We all know that everything that is in the physical was in the spirit first. And that is where the power of the mind is. So to be positive, to believe that we can, to not allow any negative influences in our lives is a major tool if we want to succeed at anything and everything that we do. There is a quote that Julian shared with John, and I'm going to read it out for you. He says it had a very huge impact on him at the time when he was with the Sages, but even going forward, and he wishes to share it with us, so I will read it. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person than you ever dreamed yourself to be. It's a quote from a writer called Patanjali, that's in India. So the mind is a tool that we must cultivate. What you deposit in it, it's going to work on. And they said there's no magic. It's not magical. It is that what your mind dwells on will form feelings, and from your feelings, your actions will follow. The person who commits suicide does not just wake up and gets a rope or some drug. They have been thinking about how terrible their situation is, and they have concluded that their tomorrow is not worth seeing. They have concluded that they do not deserve to be alive. Where did it start? Thought. This is terrible. I cannot go through this. I should not continue to live. And then the action, they get a rope, they get a drug, and are ready to die. It's very easy to see from that illustration. Now, on the positive end, I will go through this. I mean, it is terrible, fine, but I will go through it. And because you have decided you will go through it, the mind starts looking around, figuring out what, therefore, can you do in order to go through this terrible situation. Talk to someone. Don't be alone. Get someone to talk to. Read the Bible, read the Quran. Get some energizing stuff. Find a very good program on TV that will fill you with positivity and watch it. That is how the mind works. And then, of course, you will get out of the trouble. So there's no magic. That's how it works. So then, after the mind, the next powerful thing is purpose. Life without a purpose is worthless, because what is tomorrow for? You don't have anything to do with it. So if you don't have a purpose, you don't need a tomorrow. Therefore, number 2 of the very important elements of life is purpose. And that is what makes your endeavor to discover who you are very important. When you do a thing that you love to do, work becomes play. When you discover what you are created to do, then there is no need to drag you to do what you are supposed to do. All our lives should be driven by purpose. So my friend, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my child, daughter, son, my in-laws, discover what you are created to do. There is a wave of energy that you get every time you think about doing the thing that you know you are supposed to do. And this is not very hard, because it is in your heart. It is in your heart. It is that thing that you have never been able to stop thinking about. You thought about it 10 years ago, you still think about it today, and every time you think about it, there is a feeling that you get in your heart. Pray about it. And then don't think about the resources, whether you have resources or not. Start doing it. When you start, the universe, the forces of the universe that God so graciously put in the universe will conspire with you to bring that stuff to pass. So discover who you are, discover what you are meant to be. And then the purpose, together with the mind that is well nourished. I'm sure you can imagine what that would be for your life, for the world, for us. That is how a life of significance is created. An orderly mind, a purpose-driven life. Let me read you a scripture from the Bible, and it is Proverbs 17, verse 22. It says, a happy heart is good medicine, and a cheerful mind works healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. Did you hear that? A happy heart is good medicine, and a cheerful mind works healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. Does that resonate with what we have been talking about? So look at these things. Beforehand, God knew. He knew, of course God knew that your mind is a very important tool. But let me tell you one amazing thing. Your mind is also the mind of God. That is why you cannot work without aligning with the purpose that God deposited in you. You will receive partial success, but inside of your heart, in your mind, there will be lots of turmoil if you are not aligned, if your mind is not aligned with the mind of God. Because your purpose is ordained by God. Your purpose is ordained by God. So you must align with it. And if you align with it, then you align with the mind of God. And that level of success cannot be beaten. It cannot be beaten, not by the devil. No witchcraft, nothing can beat. No. So brothers and sisters, this is the life, this is the real life, where your mind is at peace. You are at peace with your colleagues, you are at peace at home, you are at peace everywhere. You wish people well. It doesn't matter what they wish you. You are using your talent and the experiences that you have got for the good. You have a purpose and you are very clear on it. You're clear on the goals. The combination of those is bliss. So we have seen two. The main thing in all this discussion that I'm holding, rather the in this talk, is the two things. One, the mind. What do you nourish it with? What thoughts do you allow to get in your mind? How do you deal with the things that sort of scare you? Because fear can be very, very real. Fear can be real. But that depends on how the mind has interpreted it. You know, the mind works with images. So when you get fear and you create that image, the mind is a powerful tool. It will pick it up and bring it to pass. So guard your mind. have a purpose, draw your goals, be very clear, have timelines, create positive pressure around you. Timelines, clarity, and do day by day. Do something. So that's where we are for now. Next video will be the next 5 that I left. Thank you and be blessed.